And we're on. And we're a little off there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get like we had a couple weeks ago. But welcome back, everybody. We are back for another episode. On the podcast, it'll be me and Sam today. Last week we were very late with bringing out the videos, and I apologize about that. Both Sam and Jacob were busy. I was too. Not a lot of us had a lot of time. I made the videos, and it took me forever to get them out. Like, I made an MLB video, and I still haven't been able to get that video out. I might just have to do it over again because it's like almost a week since I've recorded the video, and I haven't even been able to get it out because had to do some editing for it, and I haven't been able to do that. So, been very busy lately. We obviously also have a lot of other stuff coming up too. So just some announcements. We'll be doing videos for the NBA, which actually starts next week. So we'll be doing, as Sam goes away, we'll be doing stuff for we'll be doing stuff for the NBA. I don't know when that will be, but I'm sure we'll do something maybe on our Instagram account or on here, ranking like the divisions and stuff. Well, I mean, if you're an NHL fan, I apologize. We do not do NHL on this channel. Yesterday was the season opener for the NHL. They had the Seattle Kraken playing in their first game. Came very close to beating Vegas, but just came up short. Very close game. But really, so far, we got a lot of stuff coming up. So expect a lot of videos from us. I'm also going to be on vacation this weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see how I get this stuff out, but I'm sure I will. But today, in this episode, we'll be reacting to the AP poll for Week 7. And, one of the surprises of, obviously, Week 6 was that Alabama actually lost. Yeah, they lost, actually, a game this year. I don't know how that was possible, but they lost at Texas A&M. And so that thrust Georgia into the number 1 spot in the entire country. I mean, with Alabama falling, with Bama losing, obviously they were going to fall at least a little bit, and it makes sense. Georgia's been by far the best team this season. They've played like it so far, and obviously best team so far. Iowa at number 2 after taking down Penn State. I think that was kind of because Sean Clifford came out of that game. It seemed like Penn State had Iowa on the ropes, and then their starting quarterback went out, and Iowa took over from there. But still, this is a great Hawkeye team. Cincinnati at number 3. Cincinnati obviously has got a lot of great wins. This is a very good Bearcat team. Expect them to be a contender for the college football playoff spot. Oklahoma is finally starting to look like a legitimate team at number 4 in the country after a miraculous comeback against Texas last week. Sam is very disappointed with that after he had Texas in that game. And then, of course, Alabama. And then, of course, you have Alabama sitting at number 5, dropping from the number 1 spot. This top 5 makes perfect sense to me. Any thoughts on this one, Sam?
I think it's pretty well. I would only switch Cincinnati and Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma has better wins than Cincinnati. Indiana looks to be not really a great team this year, and they snuck out of there with a win. And then saying all year they look okay. They don't really look like a great team, but Cincinnati did go in and win those games, so I think they deserve to be in the top 5. I just think Oklahoma is above Cincinnati in that aspect. Other than that, I think this is pretty well-rounded.
All right, and then we go to the bottom half of the top 10, which is loaded with Big Ten teams, starting with number 6, Ohio State, after their drubbing of the Maryland Terrapins. Penn State sitting at number 7. They dropped a few spots after losing to Iowa. Nothing to be ashamed of there. Michigan jumps up 1 spot, swapping places with the Oregon Ducks, sitting at number 9 after their win over Nebraska. It was a little too close for comfort for us Wolverine fans, but we won. That's the important thing, and now we have a bye. So that's what's important right now. And sitting after Michigan, like I said, was Oregon, and then after Oregon is actually the Michigan State Spartans. They get into the top 10, giving the Big Ten half of the top 10. They have 5 teams in the top 10. It's four of them being in the bottom half, but 5 teams in the top 10. And 6, 7, 8, 10 are all from the Big Ten East. So that just goes to show you how good Michigan's division is. So once again, I mean, it's obviously Big Ten loaded, but no issues with these. I mean, this is where these teams deserve to be. I mean, Michigan's kind of has had some lackluster weeks, but they're winning games, so that's the important part. Oregon had a not so great week against Stanford and ended up losing. And I think this past week they had a bye, so they didn't play at all. Penn State dropping a few makes sense. Ohio State demolished Maryland, so they should move up. So I have no issues with this either.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons probably Oregon dropped in their space is because they figured out that they'd be without EJ Verdell for quite a bit longer than
out for the season.
Without him. Yeah, so that's probably why they dropped the space, even though they just had a bye. Potential Oregon's ceiling has now been lowered a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Big Ten loaded in the top 10, but then other than that, you don't see any other Big Ten team anywhere close to the top 25. Not even receiving any other votes to get into the top 25 of those lower the teams that would be below the top 25. But other than that, looking pretty good. I'm looking to see a top 10 showdown hopefully in the next couple weeks here between Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge game. I just noticed something. If you look right here between Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, they're actually separated by a grand total of 18 votes between the three of them. So they're really close there. Only 18 vote difference between Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. So that's pretty interesting, but again, nothing to say about there. I like everywhere everyone is there. Number 11 is the Kentucky Wildcats. They have been a huge surprise this season. Everyone kind of thought they were not going to be a great team after they barely beat Chattanooga, but then since then they've beaten Florida, they beat LSU, and I mean, I know LSU hasn't looked great this year, but they beat them by 21, so I mean, they more or less handled them. Yeah, it was a home game, but they still still as Coach O. So I'm impressed by that. Kentucky at 6-0 this season. Mark Stoops is doing a fantastic job in Lexington. And number 12 is Oklahoma State, coached by, of course, Mike Gundy. This Oklahoma State team is playing phenomenal football right now. This team is looking way better than they did the first 3 weeks of the year, where they beat Missouri State, Tulsa, and Boise State by like 5 average points. They won by 1 possession in every single one. Since then, they've been much better, and they got a big game this week coming up against Texas. So there isn't a bigger game for Oklahoma State, especially in the Big 12. That really is just them, Oklahoma, and Texas. So this is a big, huge matchup for both the Longhorns and the Cowboys, especially since the Longhorns lost to Oklahoma. And of course, I didn't mention it, but Kentucky has their own big matchup against Georgia. I don't think they'll be close, but you never know with Kentucky. They've been really solid this year. Number 13 is Ole Miss, swapping places with the team they actually beat, which is Arkansas. And Ole Miss is showing to be exactly what everybody expected. A absolutely fantastic offense with zero defense to speak of. And, I mean, their offense obviously is very good. Matt Corral's been impressive this season, so I'm not the biggest Ole Miss guy, but they're looking like a Big 12 team to me. Just all offense, and who cares about the defense? Let's just outscore everybody. And, hey, it's worked so far for them. Number 14 remains Notre Dame after they escaped Blacksburg with a 3-point win. Nothing to be ashamed of there. Just because you escape by 3 points doesn't mean you're a bad team. That's a hard place to play. Blacksburg, Virginia, very difficult to play there. And then number 15 is Coastal Carolina. They stay at number 15. They haven't beaten anybody yet. They remain undefeated. They'll have Appalachian State soon. That's the big game to watch. I know Appalachian State just got pretty much manhandled by Louisiana, but that's still a good Appalachian State team. Excited to see that game against the Chanticleers. No problems with 11 through 15. I think this is basically where everybody should be. How about you, Sam?
Michigan, in many aspects, they didn't seem to be. They had didn't have high expectations for them this year. Michigan certainly didn't have high expectations so far, and they've ascended towards the top of the list because of all these other teams that we thought we had high expectations for have been falling from the ceiling.
North Carolina,
Clemson.
Oh yeah.
Clemson, I shouldn't have picked them for my fantasy, but Clemson. They picked up the win though against Boston College that one week. Anyway,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yeah. But then they play the Cuse on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That will be fun. But Kentucky, I'd see Kentucky, Michigan, similar teams. Obviously, a huge test for Kentucky. They have to go into Athens, I believe, right?
Yep, they had to between the hedges. Yeah.
Yeah, they got to go into Athens. It's not an easy place to play, especially Georgia. Phenomenal defense. They've looked all year long.
I mean, ask Arkansas. They dealt with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pretty much, I see, no problems. Ole Miss, they got offense, and, they're going to come into play, and the SEC offense, loaded talent. And after the shootout with Arkansas, the big surprise, I think, was that Arkansas was able to keep up with them offensively, especially after a demoralizing week against Georgia.
Very surprising. Ole Miss had a pretty much demoralizing week, too. Bama smoked them.
I mean, at least
that's true.
They had that going for them. Other than that, no, I don't really see any problems. Yep, Coastal Carolina's going to have that test against Appalachian State coming up soon. Other than that, they should be pretty much perfect, so they'll probably stay in the top 15, most likely, for the rest of the season. And Notre Dame, that was a good game to watch in Blacksburg.
Very good.
To see Notre Dame actually just finish a game and come back and just win. And it's good for Notre Dame. So, yeah, I agree.
All right, and then we got the next 5 here, starting with Wake Forest at number 16. This Wake Forest team is making history right now with how good they're playing. Just escaped in another week. Last 2 weeks, they've won by 3 points on, I think, last-second field goals both times. Well, one was in overtime against Syracuse, I think. But Louisville was a last-second field goal. I know that win was a little controversial, but Wake Forest 6-0 this season. No losses yet. They are playing very well. They don't really have that many. They have a few weeks of easier games, and then they'll get into the beef of the ACC. So it's something to see there. But Wake Forest so far, really impressive. Arkansas, number 17, as I said, they swap places with Ole Miss. This Arkansas team is definitely above expectations. It's good to see them this high in the rankings, period. And then you got Arizona State at number 18. This Arizona State team is their only loss being to BYU, who we'll talk about next. But Arizona State, very good team, undefeated in the Pac-12, looking to play spoiler to the Ducks and keep them out of the playoff. Not that they're out already, but you never know. The College Football Playoff Committee is known for doing crazier things. Then you got number 19, BYU, who we were just talking about, beating the team above them, but they just took a loss at the hands of Boise State at home. Not a good loss for them, especially with their starting quarterback returning, and they lose to Boise State. So BYU, I didn't think they're that great of a team to begin with. They had certainly had a hot start to the season. I think they're finally starting to come back down to earth. They sit at number 19 though, with a game against Baylor on the road. I don't like their chances in that one. And then number 20 remains the Florida Gators after drubbing of Vanderbilt. Once again, I have zero issues with these rankings here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely awful on offense, and especially in the play callings. A couple field goals, and they were down 23-17 at one point, and they would have made it. They kicked those field goals instead of going for it on fourth and goal. They would have been in a tie game going into the end instead of being down by 9 points when they got the ball the last time. So it's just critical coaching decisions that you have to make. That in late game situations, sometimes you have to kick those field goals just to get closer instead of trying to go for the touchdown every time just to get the tie game. You're going to get the ball back, but you can at least guarantee it if you because their defense had stepped up in the second half. Anyway, BYU disappointing loss to Boise State. The rest of the teams seem appropriate where they are. Wake Forest, the only consistent team in the ACC I see right now, besides maybe North Carolina State, if anything. And you can find close to consistency in the ACC because we just don't know what's happening there right now. Honestly,
Nobody
everybody
knows.
everybody's. It seems like everybody's on the same level of competition there in the ACC, which is way below everyone else, pretty much. Um, Arkansas, Arizona State is a sneaky good team. Definitely, I feel like without EJ Verdo for Oregon, Arizona State will probably take the Pac-12. Honestly, it's the only shot that Oregon had with the versatility of Verdell, and I think Arizona State, Oregon, neutral field, Dunn's probably going to Arizona State. Just putting it out there. So yeah, I agree with this too.
Well, it will be a big game for Arizona State this week, who will play Utah, who is also is the only other undefeated team in the Pac-12. They have a couple losses already, but in Pac-12 play, they are undefeated like Arizona State is, and they both are in the same side of the conference. So that is a huge game for Arizona State on the road in Utah this week, and for the rest of the top 25. The only team to jump into the AP poll this week was the team that beat Alabama, and that is Texas A&M at number 21. Very good game from the Aggies. Looked very impressive. Zach Calzada, the backup quarterback, taking over for Haynes, looked impressive. Came back in after the injury and really showed out. Very impressive from Texas A&M. NC State at number 22. Not a big NC State believer, but they're a decent team. SMU is number 23, undefeated. They haven't really played anyone except TCU, but this is still a decent Mustang team. San Diego State, number 24. I am not going to respect San Diego State simply because their coach is Brady Hoke. That is all I'm going to say about them. And then number 25 is the Texas Longhorns. The only reason this team is ranked is because they are playing Oklahoma State this week. And they're Texas. That's the only other reason they're ranked. So that's it for the top 25. The top teams getting votes are Auburn, who was the only team to drop out this week, then Clemson, Baylor, and no one cares about UTSA. So that's it for the top 25. Any other thoughts on the rest of this, Sam?
No, well, the only time SMU will be challenged at the end of the year is when
Cincinnati.
they get to play Cincinnati. Exactly, and they have to play Cincinnati, and it's in Ohio, so that'll be a really tough game for them. And yeah, the Aztecs, I don't really understand why they're there beating Arizona, New Mexico,
Utah.
New Mexico State.
They beat Utah, so.
Okay, they beat Utah. Whatever. They beat Utah. Come on. So State later on, then they can be in the top 25. But Fresno State actually, what do they do?
They lost to Hawaii. That's why they're not ranked.
That's right. They dropped out a couple weeks ago because they lost to Hawaii. Anyway,
I remember watching that game. That was pathetic.
They don't have any. Well, I think it's just Hawaii. It's tough to play in a place where it's a 6-hour time difference. Well, I guess it's 3 hours state, but it's tough to lag everything, and then you get just literally forced. But the football team should be good, so you should be able to beat them. So no excuse for Fresno State. And then Texas 25 because they have to play Oklahoma State, which I mean, if you fair the other day, and which is where the Cotton Bowl is played.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know. Anyway, I went over there the other day, and this is classic Texas, giving up, blowing a giant lead again, or saying they're back forever, and they're not back. Like, the fans here, they know what Texas is like, so they would know themselves why they're 25, and they get a chance to jump back up in the rankings against Oklahoma State this week. But Texas and fans will admit it. I can attest to that personally.
Well, that's it for us in this episode. You want to hear what our picks for this week? Actually, that'll be our next one that we'll be doing. So that is it for us for this one. Until next time, adios, everybody.